What's up, guys? It's time to do another top 5 killer flick style. So what is up, guys? Recently I posted a poll, just a little bit of housekeeping to keep the channel fresh, and I posted, out of all these categories, which ones do you guys like the most as far as like Drumdums watches, top 5s and rankings, Scream streams, and so on. And the big two were definitely Drumdums watches and my top 5s and rankings. So you know what would be a fun top 5? I created Killer Flicks about a year and a half ago, and I thought there's so many horror movies that I've gotten solely from that group that maybe I should do a top 5 on that. That could be really fun. So I put together a list real quick right here. I'm going to cover up the contenders. And I found probably a good 10, maybe a dozen movies that I found solely from Killer Flicks for the most part. Now, when you watch this list, you might think his number 1 is much worse than his number, say, 5. And don't weigh so heavily into that. It's more of just kind of an enjoyment factor, or maybe how much of an impact that movie had on me at the time. I know I'm not really making sense, but just bear with me. And if you're wondering what Killer Flicks is, go over to Facebook, just type in Killer Flicks, our group will pop up. We have well over 2,100 members right now, and we just keep growing. And I've been a part of quite a few Facebook groups, but I've never had a group with people that, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess they're just mature, you know what I mean? There's very little drama in Killer Flicks. We have it from time to time, but for the most part, everybody respects each other. We respect each other's opinions. And we really have a blast. We got some characters in there, I'm not gonna lie. So, I got 3 honorable mentions for you. I'm just gonna kind of glance over those real quick. First one is gonna be Never Hike Alone. That's the Friday fan film. Derek Mayu actually posted that a couple weeks ago, and he was begging me and CP to watch this thing. And I finally watched it, and Derek, I know exactly what you were talking about. This was fantastic. It's a French take on a Friday the 13th movie. Just one victim throughout the whole movie, and it's a survival story, and it's so well shot. It's a Kickstarter campaign, and it just goes to show that with an imagination, you can really accomplish anything as far as creating a movie goes. And I would rank this with the best of the Friday films, really, especially the very last 10 minutes. If you're a Friday fan, you will want to stay for those last 10 minutes. I mean, the whole movie's great, but those last 10 minutes is icing on the cake. Next honorable mention, South Korean horror was really big around the time that Killer Flicks got going, and I really got into it. And I'm gonna mention 2 quick films just because they're grouped together, South Korean films, The Wailing and Train to Busan. Both those were fantastic. Train to Busan is a great zombie movie set on a train. And then you have The Wailing, which is a complete mind bender, the type of movie that you got to watch a couple times. It's got some like evil stuff and demon stuff, but in more of an Asian form. And if you watch Asian films, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the type of movie you want to watch at least a few times, but it's stellar. Okay, last honorable mention is going to be Tiger House. I can't remember who recommended Tiger House to me, but it was one of those on Netflix, and I'm going to butcher the hell out of her name. It's Kaya Scardellaro, and I know I know in the comments I'm going to get it blasted, but Leela is a huge fan of hers. But this is one of those films where you got a person that's just in the wrong place at the wrong time, much like You're Next, and the main character, she's left to kind of fend for her life. She's visiting her boyfriend, and then these robbers come in, and there's just a lot of fun to be had. She has to find a way to get out of this horrible situation. Definitely recommend Tiger House. Okay, here we go. Really excited. All 5 of these movies are stellar, and if it wasn't for Killer Flicks, I might not have found these. Number 5 is gonna be The Babysitter. The Babysitter caught fire within the last couple weeks on Netflix. A lot of people have been talking about it. It's a fantastic horror comedy. And everybody loves a good horror movie that's based on babysitting. I mean, the original Halloween was going to be called The Babysitter Murders. But this one really starts out as kind of a full-fledged comedy, and then in the middle, it just really turns on its head. And you got this demon cult group and this kid that's stuck in the middle of this whole situation. And there's just so much fun to be had. This is one of those horror movies where you can tell the director just wanted to have a blast. And McG does such a great job with this movie. This is one that I'm definitely going to be watching more every year, so be sure to check out The Babysitter. Number 4 is going to be Starry Eyes. This is another one somebody mentioned, and it was on Netflix. And Starry Eyes came out a few years ago, and it centers around, you know, Hollywood and what actresses have to go through to make it in. And when you mix that with a horror type of environment, it can work really well. I got some really strong Neon Demon vibes from this, but more kind of straight-laced. It goes to some really dark places, but that last act is just insane. So when you're watching this, you kind of form your own conclusions of where this thing is going to go, but you're wrong. It ends up going in a different direction, and it gets crazy, it gets bloody, chaotic, and I loved every second of it. Now, number 3 is a movie that I had heard of before Killer Flicks, but I never bothered to really watch it, and it's going to be Return of the Living Dead 3. It's one of those movies that just kept popping up time and time again, and people would say, have you seen Return of the Living Dead 3? It's so much different than, you know, the first 2 Return of the Living Deads, and it's more centered on a love story. But if you look at that cover art for this movie, it is just glorious, and it immediately makes you want to watch this. And the main actress, who slowly turns into a zombie throughout this movie, does really a fantastic job. And there's some tender moments in this. It's one of those few horror movies that takes itself seriously, but gets away with it. And to me, it's almost as good as the first Return of the Living Dead. Now, number 1 and number 2 are like 5 out of 5 movies for me. Trapped on an Island movies. Number 2 is going to be The Loved Ones. The Loved Ones is another one that immediately caught my eye based on the cover, because you have this girl, she's in a prom dress, and she's pointing a drill at the viewer. And there's just something about mixing the prom with horror. They work really well together. It's always fun mixing those two environments. And this one goes insane. Like, as far as prom movies go, this one's not tame at all. It gets really freaking like bloody and dark and sadistic and chaotic and just insane. Lola, played by Robin McLeavy, might be one of the most iconic horror characters to come along in, say, probably the last 10 years. And this is one of those where it just gets better and better and better as, you know, the time goes by. The movie flies by just like that, and you are jumping from your seat by the end of it. And then number 1, my good friend, co-admin Dylan Clancy, was constantly recommending this one to me, and it is going to be Dario Argento's Tenebrae. As soon as I watched this movie, it was like my eyes were open. The slasher genre has always been my favorite genre, but Tenebrae takes the genre and adds style to it. There are so many iconic images in this movie, and it's kind of a murder mystery, as a lot of those giallo films are, but Argento's direction in this is just top notch. I mean, you put him up there with the greats like Wes Craven, like John Carpenter. The guy just has such a visionary style that's just undeniable. And if you watch Tenebrae, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Fantastic score too, by the way. For me, slasher movies with iconic scores are the best, and this one really is that. So anyway, guys, that is it. My top 5 Killer Flicks, most underrated horror films. Post below in the comments your favorite underrated horror films. I did an underrated horror films top 5 a couple years ago. Those movies are very different from this one. This is just movies that I found on Killer Flicks. But post your top 5 below. Looking forward to hearing them. Also, if you're not a member of Killer Flicks, come on over. We'd love to have you. Also, follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.